Well, good morning officially to everyone joining us today, or if you're watching this recording later, good day to you. My name is Samantha Bowers. I'm the consultant for continuing education at the State Library of Iowa. You also might recognize my colleague here from the state, Janeé Jackson-Doering, who is our youth services consultant. And we have two very special panelists joining us today, members of the co-chairs, in fact, of the Adult All Iowa Reads Committee, and they'll introduce themselves a little bit more, but Jill Martinez from the Cedar Rapids Public Library and Leslie Heinzler from the Iowa Library for the Blind and Print Disabled. So we are so grateful to have each of them with us today to walk through this webinar. So Janeé, I will turn it over to you, and the slides are coming through great, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. You knew that was going to be my question. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2024 All Iowa Reads Exploring the Shortlist. Let's get started. And as Sam previously mentioned, we have two wonderful special guests today. From the Adult All Iowa Reads Committee, we have Jill Gray Martinez of the Cedar Rapids Public Library and Leslie Heinzler from the Iowa Department of the Blind. And also in attendance, but you don't see her, we have our chair of the Adult All Iowa Reads Committee and reference librarian, Helen Dagley. Welcome to both of you, and Helen as well.
Thank you.
And from the Children's or Kids and Teen All Iowa Reads Committee, my name is Janeé Jackson-Doering. I am the Youth Services Consultant and the chair of both committees. And really quickly, we just want to send a very big thank you to all our committee members on the adult, kids, and teen committees. They did a wonderful job selecting books, bringing books to the table for discussion. They read voraciously. We had a lot of spirited discussions, and they've just done a wonderful job. So for those that are still on the committee, or if you are outgoing, I just want to say thank you. We all want to say thank you for all of your help. For those of you that are new to All Iowa Reads, this is the book selection criteria of how committees select books. For the adult committee, this is the criteria. They have to raise universal social issues relevant to Iowans. The title must lend itself to sustained, spirited, and in-depth discussion. The title must be available by January 1st of the selection year in a variety of accessible formats. The title must strike a balance between literary merit and broad appeal. And this is also a wonderful perk as well. The title can have an Iowa or Midwest connection. For the Kids Committee and the Teen Committees, we also have the same type of criteria when it comes to selecting books for the All Iowa Reads title. Again, they raise universal social issues relevant to Iowans. They're inclusive and reflect a diverse readership. We ask that it also strike a balance between literary merit and youth appeal. So for kids, we consider books for kids ages 8 to 12. And for teens, the age range that we consider is for ages 12 to 18. We also hope that the titles are available by January 1st with this variety of accessible formats. Either it's in paperback, downloadable ebook format that's available for purchase. And again, we love titles that lend themselves to sustained, spirited, and in-depth discussion. Also, if you're new to the All Iowa Reads program, we have lots of resources available on the State Library of Iowa's page. The link is down below. If you go to that link, you'll see all different kinds of resources that you can use to promote the All Iowa Reads program at your library. And these are just some examples of what you'll see when you go to the All Iowa Reads resources page. You'll find discussion guides, of all the winning books for kids, teens, and adults. You'll find book summaries, sample press releases, publicity materials. And what do I mean by publicity materials? We have poster and bookmark templates and social media graphics that you can use, download and use at your library. We have author interviews and scholarly book reviews of the winning titles, and we have more resources. So you can just take a peek at statelibraryofiowa.gov. And please don't forget, please save the date because we have wonderful summer virtual author visits with the All Iowa Reads winning titles this year. On Tuesday, June 11th, for the adult committee, we will have Diane Wilson, who will talk about The Seed Keeper from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. For the kids and teen virtual sessions, both authors will be available on Wednesday, June 12th. For children, Celia C. Perez will talk about her book Tumble from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And then Samira Ahmed, who wrote Hollow Fires for Teens, she will be available from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. Registration for these webinars will open in mid-April, so please stay tuned and make sure you mark them on your calendars. So, without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Jill and Leslie, and they will share the adult All Iowa Reads shortlist titles. And I'm going to turn off my camera and take it away.
Hello, everybody. This is Jill Martinez, and I'm going to talk about 3 of the 5 books that we had on our short list for the adult Iowa Reads. And so these were the other ones that we considered at the same time as The Seed Keeper. The first one is Don't Cry for Me. And I can see she's put that cover up there. Thank you. Written by Daniel Black. As the cover tells you, it's a novel. So this is a fictional story. And it's the story of a man named Jacob Swinton, who was born in the 1930s. He was raised by his grandparents, who were only one generation removed from slavery. So Jacob had a very, very, very harsh upbringing where he was taught that to be a man, you provided, you worked, but you did not show any emotion or weakness. He saw the death of his beloved older brother and his grandmother while he was a teenager, and ultimately was launched into the post-World War II-ish society by his grandfather. He marries, he has one son, and his relationships with his son and his wife are terrible. I mean, they are just terrible to the point where his marriage fails and he ends up being estranged from his only son. So Jacob at the beginning of the novel is dying and he wants to reach out to his son. He realizes that he can't really fix the relationship, but the entire novel is his letters to his son and recollecting his childhood all the ways through the present and the things that he's learned. It is one of those books that this sounds like a very heavy topic. The guy is dying. He doesn't have good relationships, but the prose is beautiful and the spirit of the book is so uplifting. It's a very easy read. The themes that they talk about to me were so, I'm trying to think of the word, applicable to today in all of the ways that we see people, and we have a hard time understanding where people get some of their opinions about the world. You can really see this whole man's thought process laid bare, and especially I think that this book is helpful for people that are struggling to see why some people may think this is a certain way to be a man and you don't understand it, or to be a father for that matter. So why we chose it, like I said before, the writing is absolutely beautiful and the themes of father-son relationships and the perceptions of manhood are just treated with great empathy. It does have a Midwest connection in that the author Daniel Black is a native of Kansas City. And the book is set in both Arkansas and Missouri. So there's quite a bit of, I would say, Midwest connection in there. some of the interesting things that I would say that you could do for programming. In your book discussion, you could talk quite a bit about the polarization in our communities, from political to gender to racial, a lot of, how people have different feelings about that. But I also think that you could do some programs with letter writing between the generations that would echo some of what happens in this book. And it would be I would think, a really beautiful way to kind of tie all of that in together. This book is available in Hoopla as an e-audio and an e-book, in Bridges and e-audio, and then also regular and large print. So a great variety of of formats that would be wonderful for that. Okay, I guess I'm going to go to my next book. This is now a fiction book, and it's got the craziest cover. It's a picture of a woman, but her head is covered by something, I don't know what. At any rate, as a student in philosophy, Regan Penaluna discovers just an absolute wall of misogyny. She is young. She actually wants to live a life of the mind, but doesn't really have the confidence to feel like she's smart enough. She's a lot of insecurities. In an early seminar she's in, a man, one of her instructors says, "Can a woman really think? Is a woman as smart as a man?" And she's shocked by this. She looks around and she's one of maybe 2 women students in this seminar for philosophies. But so she starts to think about how women are treated in the field, and she looks around for female philosophers and basically finds that the prestigious program that she's in, and she's on the East Coast at this point, and there's no women really taught. It's all very male dominated. So she's looking around, and by the way, this woman was born in 1979, so this isn't like from the turn of the century. She's a very contemporary person. So almost by accident, she stumbles across a mention of a 17th century writer, Damaris Cutworth Masham. And this woman was at the same time as John Locke. And so she wrote about important topics of the day and was a strong advocate for women's education. This discovery led Penaluna to other women philosophers, and 3 of which she talks about quite a bit in the book. And this eventually became the focus of her dissertation. She talks a lot about the biographies of the women and the things that as women that they experience, which would be, society's expectations for how, getting married and having children and the role of society. All of the women she talks about in some ways bucked the societal expectations of the 17th and 18th centuries. The other women that she covered, in addition to Dolores Masham, were Mary Wollstonecraft, Catherine Cockburn, and Mary Estelle. And I had never really heard of anybody but Mary Wollstonecraft, who actually is the mother of Mary Shelley. So you learn a lot about these women and what they did in philosophy. But the thing that I think I found most interesting in this was interspersed throughout these women's biographies was Penaluna's own story, her memoir of she went to college. She starts a relationship with one of her, I think he was a TA or some kind of instructor, and eventually marries him and moves to Iowa and starts as I think she's like a graduate student teacher at what ends up being Decorah. Mm-hmm. So at any rate, while she's doing this and she's kind of learning about herself, she's constantly struggling with the feeling of not being good enough and what that's about. And that really became, to me, the most, I would say, fascinating part of this book, is just how she eventually gets her mind and learns to take the things that she learns from these women of long, long ago and becomes a more independent thinker and much more sure of herself. I think that this book deserves to be read by anyone who thinks that women have really made it in society. The experiences that she had as a student and her relationship with her marriage to a previous instructor are great reminders that privileges like race and education are lessened by being female. In addition, she also taught at an Iowa college. It doesn't say which, but I'm pretty sure it was Luther College. Most Iowans would be able to guess based on how she describes it. She's also apparently an Iowa native, but I don't know where she was born. So there's a lot of Midwest connections. Some fun things that you could do for programming ideas if you wanted to do it is you certainly could talk about women's rights through history, which is a pretty fascinating thing. Also philosophy, which I'm not a huge fan of. And like I never took any philosophy classes, but I learned a lot by reading this, just kind of the basics about that. What people thought of during the 17th and 18th centuries were important, were obviously freedom, but they were very religious. This book is available in Hoopla, both ebook and e-audio, also a Bridges ebook, and then it's a regular print. There is not a large print copy. But this is a very fascinating read. The last one that I wanted to talk about is You'll Never Believe What Happened to Lacey, Crazy Stories About Racism. If you don't know, Amber Ruffin, who is one of the authors, and her sister Lacey Lamar. Amber Ruffkin's a comedian that I think most of us know. She did skits and wrote for Late Night with Seth Meyers. And at any rate, her and her sister published this book that is all about things that happened to Lacey, who is Amber's older sister, who has continued to live in Omaha, Nebraska. And she mostly has worked in professional fields. I think she does a lot with nursing homes where she's like in management. But the stories they're not like terrible things like, oh, somebody got shot or something like that. But they're pretty horrendous stories about how people in the Midwest feel really entitled to be racist assholes. I'm sorry for the swearing, but she writes in such a way that it's pretty funny. Again, a very hard to read topic for a lot of white people, I would say, but something that is very much needed. She has a whole bit about this HR lady that she dealt with over the years that is, I mean, I would say humorous for anybody in the work world as well. Maybe not for somebody in HR, but this person was a real piece of work. I've read several books about racism and feel that this one can stand aside the heavy hitters, such as How to Talk About Race and How to Be an Anti-Racist. The title, I think, and just the way it's written might be a little bit more palatable to people that are new to talking about race. So I think that would make a great book discussion if you're looking for one to kind of introduce some of these ideas. Why we chose it basically because white people, and especially white Midwesterners, really need to start talking about race and maybe seeing how some of the things that they think of as pretty innocuous are pretty horrible. And like I said before, the use of humor would make this a more enjoyable read. Amber and Lacey are both Omaha natives, so there's your Midwestern connection. I think some programming ideas would be great to do some stand-up comedy nights, also community stories about racism in your community. This is available in Bridges and e-audio, in regular print, and also CD audiobook. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Heinzler, and I am the Special Services Librarian at the Iowa Library for the Blind and Print Disabled. And the first book I'm going to talk about is The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson. I would say this book is about family, motherhood, race. It is set in 2008, right after President Obama has just been elected. But I would say the topics and issues raised in this book are still timely for today in 2024, 2023. So it surrounds Ruth Tuttle, a Black Ivy League educated engineer who lives in Chicago with her husband. He's ready to start a family, but she's never really gotten over a baby that she gave birth to when she was a teenager, and she was forced to give up that baby. And it's also a secret that she's kept from her husband. When she had that baby and gave that baby up, she promised her family that she'd leave her hometown, go on to Yale, and just never look back. but she realizes that she kind of must make peace with that decision and what's happened in the past in order for her to move forward with her husband and possibly a new child in their lives. So she returns home to Indiana, to a small town that was a factory town, but the factory has since shut down. So there's lots of unemployment. It's plagued by racism and despair. So while she's there, while she's at home in her hometown, she makes an unlikely friendship with a little boy named Midnight. He has a troubling past. They kind of form a relationship. And just as she's about to uncover a secret that her family doesn't want to be known, wants to keep hidden, there is kind of a traumatic incident that happens in the town. The town has lots of racial tensions, and this just sends Midnight and Ruth on this big collision course that could just change both their lives. So this author, she's a former journalist. It's her debut novel. I would say it definitely explores race and class and identity in the pursuit of the American dream. It really does twine together race and class and makes you think about how those things are interrelated. You also see themes of community, strength of community. There's a strong presence of the church, secrecy, and family bonds. I listened to this as an audiobook, and the narrator does a fabulous job. It's very easy to listen to. It would be a very easy read, I believe. It is told from multiple points of view of Ruth and Midnight. So you're really able to see the complicated relationships between Ruth and her husband, between Ruth and her mother, her brother and sister, and just the friends in Ruth's hometown as she journeys back to make that connection. Some read-alikes for this book would be The Mothers by Britt Bennett, which is a previous All Iowa Reads Choice, Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jesse, and We Are Not Like Them by Christine Pride. I would say this book was chosen because it does kind of have a Midwest connection, being set in Chicago and Indiana, and just all the issues that it raises of race and class and how those are interrelated. And I believe this book is available on Bridges and in all formats. So the next book is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. And I just liked this quick description of the book. I'm just going to read it real quick. A rollicking feminist tale set in 1950s America, where thousands of women have spontaneously transformed into dragons, exploding notions of a woman's place in the world and expanding minds about accepting others for who they really are. So I really enjoyed this book. I'm not typically a fantasy reader, but I would say this is fantasy, a little magic realism, alternate history. It is the first adult novel by the Newbery Award-winning author, Kelly Barnhill, who also wrote The Girl Who Drank the Moon. So in the story, Alex Green is a young girl in a world much like ours, except for they had what they call a mass dragoning in 1955, where hundreds of thousands of wives and mothers across the country sprouted wings, scales, and talons and left a fiery destruction in their path. So ultimately became dragons and took to the skies. And they left behind so many questions. Why did they dragon? Was it their choice? What will become of those who left behind? And then Alex's aunt did transform and leave, but her mother did not. And why did that happen? She doesn't know, and no one really speaks of it. So forced into silence, she must face the consequences of this event. Her mother becomes way protective over her. Her father is not really there. Her aunt is gone, and her cousin is now her sister. So it's a great read. It's, I think, relevant in a timeless coming of age story that's very heartfelt and complex. It was written in such a way that you see multiple perspectives of events without hearing from multiple characters. There are press release documents from scientists and newspaper clippings that kind of give the story a realistic tone. And it kind of also acts as sort of a memoir for Alex, who tells her story, her childhood, her experience of the mass dragoning, and how it affected the lives of the people that were left behind. Sometimes the fantasy genre might turn people off, but I really think this novel is grounded in reality. There's lots of powerful emotions and messages included. And you kind of think of the dragons as metaphors. So it's kind of a book about rage and joy, about love and fear, about sexism and feminism, about truth and lies, and trauma and healing, and above all, really about family. So I really enjoyed this book, and I highly recommend it. I don't know if you can tell. Rita likes would be Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan, and The Women's Room by Marilyn French. And this book is also available in pretty much any format. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to get my camera back on. I love Zoom when you can figure things out. So hold on just a second. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for your patience. And thank you to Jill and Leslie for the awesome adult shortlist titles. Now we are going to turn to the teen All Iowa Reads shortlist. And I'm going to pull up my notes because I have notes for all of our titles as well. The first book is Blackbirds in the Sky, the story and legacy of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. This is written by Brandy Colbert, and this is a wonderfully well-written nonfiction book for teens. I had never heard about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, and Brandy does a fabulous job recounting one of the most deadly and destructive acts of racial violence in American history. She has interviews, there's maps, there's different interviews from different people who lived through the Tulsa Race Massacre, and it's just a well-written piece of history for teens. This would be wonderful to share with teens during a program. It's very compelling, and it is a very timely book for our culture right now. And it was a great book to promote, especially during Black History Month. So I would definitely pick Blackbirds in the Sky, the story and legacy of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. The second book on the teen committee that they selected was In the Wild Light, and this is written by Jeff Zentner. This is about a young man named Cash, and he has a best friend named Delaney. Delaney and Cash do everything together, and he really likes her, and he wants to have a relationship with her. But Delaney is very smart. She's very bright. They both come from really kind of small Appalachian life. And they've both been affected by drug use from their family members. But Delaney gets a full ride to a elite prep school in Connecticut. And she goes on the condition that Cash can go with her. So Cash has to choose between his love to protect Delaney and his loyalty to his grandparents. He's lived with his grandparents most of his life because of drug use with his family members, and he loves his grandpa. I love the Paw. They call him Paw Paw. I loved Paw Paw throughout this whole book, and the committee did too. It's a touching story. It's a riveting story. It's just so moving, and it has the themes of leaving home for the first time, love, acceptance, finding who you are. So I would recommend this for teens who are looking for those types of books. So definitely select In the Wild Light by Jeff Zentner. The next book on our list that the committee selected is called One of the Good Ones. This is by Micah Molite and Marisa Molite. They are sisters. One of the Good Ones is about 18-year-old Kezzy Smith. She's a teen activist and she's a history buff. But during a social justice rally in LA that she's attending with her girlfriend, Kezzy dies under mysterious circumstances after being arrested by police and being in their custody. Her sisters, Happy and Jenny, are devastated. They are still reeling and coming to terms with her death. And Kezzy becomes another immortalized victim in the fight against police brutality. And Happy is starting to question the way her sister is being remembered. And so to commemorate Kezzy, Happy and Jenny embark on a road trip that Kezzy originally planned using the Negro Motorist Green Book as their guide. And as they're on the road, they start to learn more about each other, but there's a twist to Kezzy's story that even their sisters didn't expect. And it's something that changes everything for all of them. The chapters move back and forth between past and present. It is intricately plotted, a nonlinear form of writing. Just you're wondering what's the twist. And I think that'll keep teens engaged and interested. If you're looking for something that has an activist feel to it, definitely recommend One of the Good Ones. The final selection from the teen committee is a book called This Place is Still Beautiful by ZZ Tian. And this is about two sisters, Annalie and Margaret. They are not the closest siblings, and especially since Margaret is away in college. Annalie is about to start her senior year of high school. Both the girls are raised in a small Illinois town by their Chinese American mother. But the three have a distant but courteous relationship. The mom refuses to acknowledge that their dad, who is white, who left early in their lives, she refuses to talk about him. And the girls navigate being biracial differently. Margaret has more Chinese American features, while Annalie is trying to pass as white. And in their small Illinois town, a racial slur is painted across their house. And when Margaret hears about this, she returns to her hometown and she's experiencing kind of that same passive aggressiveness that she had left behind. And Annalie is trying to get through the summer and hopefully get close to her next crush. This has themes of racism, social justice, first romances. It has everything in it. And the story is told from alternating points of view. And it really looks at how people of the same ethnicity live their realities based on outward appearances. This was a very compelling read. If you like compelling reads and you have teens that are looking for something that is challenging and compelling, recommend This Place is Still Beautiful. Okay, we are going to move and switch gears to our kids' All Iowa Reads shortlist. The first title on the list for children is called The Best Liars in Riverview. This is written by Lynn Thompson, and this is about two kids. Joel, who's biracial and white, he's a child that goes missing in Kentucky, and Aubrey feels like she needs to find him because they always done everything together. They always play in the woods together, and when he disappears, she's wondering why. They got into a fight, and that plays a part in it. But also, Joel is experiencing regular bullying at school. And Aubrey has an idea of what happened to him, but she doesn't tell anyone, not even the police. And Joel's parents are distraught. And she's just trying to find him, and secretly Aubrey accompanies two schoolmates, Mari and her older sister Tegan. They both set out on a trek into the woods to find Joel. This novel has themes of gender identity, privilege, prejudice, all rolled into one. It's a heartfelt read, and it's also a story about friendship. So definitely pick up The Best Liars in Riverview by Lynn Thompson. This was one of our favorite books. This is called Cress Watercress. This is written by Gregory Maguire and illustrated by David Litchfield. This is a charming book about young little Cress, who is a rabbit. And she notices that Papa doesn't return home from a nocturnal honey gathering expedition. And Cress is holding out for hope, hoping that Papa comes home. But her mother has assumed the worst. And it's a dangerous world for rabbits. So the mama rabbit moves what's left of their family, the Watercress family. She moves them into the basement of an oak tree called the Broken Arms. And it's ran by a suspect owl landlord who always says, "I'll make a note of that." He's very nosy, very, very all-knowing. But they also encounter a noisy mouse, a rowdy family of squirrels, songbirds who broadcast everyone's business. But it's such a fun book. Cress is very headstrong. She's determined. You'll love the skunk character. There's just such charming creatures in this book, and the illustrations are gorgeous. If anything, please take a peek at the illustrations. We all know Gregory Maguire. He's known for the book series Wicked, and with that movie Wicked coming out. But this book, Cress Watercress, would make a great read aloud, especially for 3rd through 5th grades. This is a charming book, and I hope you guys get a chance to pick it up for your library. Our next title is called Anybody Here Seen Frenchie? This is written by Leslie Connor, and this is about Aurora. She's an 11-year-old girl. She's bouncy, loud, she's impulsive, and making friends has not been her strong suit. But in 3rd grade, she befriends Frenchie. Frenchie is a young man who is autistic, and he does not talk, but he silently communicates to her, and they form a friendship, and they love exploring the woods together in coastal Maine. Frenchie specifically loves the piebald deer. And as they're going to school, when Frenchie doesn't make it to his classroom one day, Aurora freaks out. She's wondering where her best friend is because she always walks him into his classroom every day. She's wondering what's going on, and automatically she feels like it's her fault, that she's to blame for Frenchie not making it to his classroom. And she does everything in her power to find him. This was a compelling, fun mystery to read. The characters are likable. You really like Aurora and Frenchie. I love how the community banded together to find the young man. It has themes of friendship, growing up, finding out who you are. It's just a really nice read for kids, for grades 3 and up. And it's very uplifting. So definitely pick up Anybody Here Seen Frenchie? The next book and final book on our list is called Attack of the Black Rectangles. This is written by Amy Serig King, or many of you might know her as A.S. King. And this is a book about 6th grader Mac Delaney. He is a young man that has ignored all the town's rules. He is a free-thinking kid who's been raised by his mom and his granddad to call out things that are wrong. And at the elementary school in his small town, Mac and his friends, Marcy and Dennis, they are assigned to read The Devil's Arithmetic by Jane Yolen. There's only one problem. They are noticing that black rectangles are drawn around certain words in the book. And once the kids see this, they feel violated. They don't know what's going on. So they visit the local bookstore and they grab a copy of the book to read the omitted words, which the words that the teacher omits are breast, undeveloped chest. And the kids feel violated. And their teacher, Miss Sett, the three kids suspect that Miss Sett drew the rectangles and they intend to right this wrong. This is a really awesome book to read because it talks about themes of censorship. You see the tweens grow up. You see how well-meaning grown-ups like the principal dismiss their valid concerns, not just because they're kids, but because the grown-ups know something is wrong and they're forced to actually do something about it or not. But I adored, and the committee adored, how Mac, Dennis, and Marcy were standing up for intellectual freedom. They're smart, resilient, relatable characters. And if you get a chance to pick this up, you'll adore Mac's hip, meditating granddad, Marcus, who you realize is becoming more of a father figure to Mac than his own father, who is showing signs of instability and a little bit of mental illness. This was a great read, a relevant, timely read. So if you have a chance, please pick up Attack of the Black Rectangles by Amy Serig King. And I'm just going to check the chat. Oh, man, I'm checking the chat right now. Looks like Tracy said she loved Cress Watercress. Yes, I loved it too. Great book. And Rhonda Kelly said, I must read Blackbirds. And Allison says the audiobook of Blackbirds in the Sky was fantastic. Yes. Megan says the book Blackbirds in the Sky has remained in my mind and my heart since I first read it. So well written. I agree. So if you have any questions about the All Iowa Reads program, or, hey, how does this work? Or committees, what does it take to be on a committee? Please send those questions our way. For the adult committee, you want to talk to Helen Dagley, and her contact information is below. For the kids and teen committees, if you ever have questions or questions about the books, please email me. My contact information is there as well. And for the All Iowa Reads winners for kid, teen, and adults, if you would like to reserve a book set, please do. This is the contact information for you. We have Dory from Central Southeast, who'd be more than happy to request a book set for you. From North Central and Northeast districts, contact Tricia Frazier. And from the Northwest, Southwest districts, please contact Amanda Groen. They would love to put your book requests on hold and send those out to you. The other thing I wanted to point out that Sam very kindly pointed out in the chat, the All Iowa Reads summer author webinars, those are great opportunities for your summer programming. You could have viewing parties for your adult patrons who are listening to Diane Wilson. You can have viewing parties for the children and teens who want to listen to Celia and Samira. For the children and teen summer webinars, we will have a team from the Iowa Poet Ambassadors Program who will take your questions. They will interview both authors, Samira and Celia, and they will take your questions. So that way teens and kids can ask questions during the webinar. All these webinars are free. Again, they would be great summer reading opportunities for you. Great summer programming. So I hope you get a chance to register in April for those webinars. Sam, did you want to add something? I'm sorry.
I did not. I was just going to point out what you said about the inviting your book clubs or inviting your patrons to register. This will be a public Zoom link, so anyone can register just like you do for any other Zoom event. They're not for CE credit, but they're a great way for us to get the word out about these titles that we're so excited about. So do be promoting those as part of your summer programming or just to your community, to your patrons. That was all I was gonna say.
Yes. And really quickly, I also want to add, since we have a little bit of time, if you have not registered for Pop YSCon, the Pop Youth Services Conference, please do. You have until March 22nd. So please check our website at statelibraryofoiowa.org for all the awesome information. We've got excellent keynotes, excellent breakout sessions that we're going to be announcing in March. So stay tuned, get yourself registered, and get yourself registered for the Summer Reading Summit that's happening April 10th as well. We're going to have some fun days of programming, learning, sharing, networking, all the things. So definitely check our website for more info.
Hey. Well, Jill and Leslie, thank you both so much. Thank you, Janeé, for taking us through. This webinar is always a whirlwind, and I always feel like I don't read enough after I walk out of this webinar. So I'm thankful to you all of our committee members who put in so much time reading these titles and getting them selected for us and narrowed down to just one. It's got to be a hard choice to make for our All Iowa Read selection, but very thankful to each of you. Thanks to all of you for coming today. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I had to check what day it was. It is Tuesday. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.